Hey everybody, back again with another one. Got SteelWill from the Silverhawks. Going to be knocking out the rest of this series and going to be sharing this with my page here just a second. Bear with me just a moment. And we are going to be ready to knock this out. It's going to be a fast one, hopefully, because he's going to come out really quick because this is such a close-up. But yeah, we're going to hang out here for the next few minutes and have some fun with it and go from there. So, we are set up. Hey, Elizabeth. Thanks for stopping by. I'm going to get right into this thing here because I want to knock this one out and add it to the collection. And I've got Copper Kid coming up tomorrow. I was going to consider doing him today, but I decided to do SteelWill first, just to knock him off the list here, and go ahead and finish out the twins, as it were, because we did Steel Heart yesterday. And this guy is phenomenal. He's one of my favorite characters. I love classic animation, especially the stuff I grew up with. I mean, everybody's biased to their stuff that they grow up with, but in my particular case, I got hooked into comics based more off of animation than the actual comic books, because it was just a different dynamic, because rock music was primarily used, or at least unique themes rather than cheeky elevator music or, the quirky kid music that had followed over from the 60s cartoons, the Hanna-Barbera stuff, which there's nothing wrong with those. I think they're a blast, but the cartoons of the day were always more mature, so I just got hooked into them. And this particular series is one of my absolute favorites because of the fact that it was so unique. Even with the Thundercats and whatnot going on around it, which were made by the same company, Filmation, the Filmation animation series studio, and they did whatever they thought came to mind, and Lou over there did just the same thing that Jack Kirby did to DC's animation company. It was all about them coming out and making a ton of good material for entertainment purposes. I mean, it was good sci-fi and just classic cartoon animation. They had great stories, and a lot of those series are missed now because of that, because modern cartoons don't have that. And I know every generation says that, my parents said that, my grandparents said that, and my granddad's day they had Popeye and Betty Boop and Mickey Mouse, and in my mom's day they had my mom and dad's day they had the whole Hanna-Barbera thing from the 60s, which was a lot of superhero stuff. But in the 70s, everybody went with street level and urban cartoons and comedies, and it was, Flash Gordon was a huge one, right out of the pages of the comics, right into the cartoons with, some of that stuff going on. They had the Superman and Superboy stuff rolled over from the 60s. They had Batman rolled in from the 70s, but it was still a 60s spoof cartoon, not what we now know, where it went back to the Dark Knight from the 90s, 89 and 90, when that series started. And there's just a lot of variations on that stuff, and you can see the history behind it as it evolved, because during the 60s there were a ton of Marvel and DC animations that nobody even knew existed. They worked in the Hanna-Barbera wheelhouse, and they also worked in their own independent cartoons from their own studios and stuff, and it was just a different time, you know. Um, they were getting there, but they hadn't got into the action stuff yet because they were still trying to keep it, safe for kids and whatnot. And my generation just got lucky with it because we got to watch a lot of cool stuff that we wouldn't have gotten to see otherwise. So, I think we're getting back to that with a lot of the cartoons. That's why I support some of the stuff that's out there now. That the new Voltron project's really, really cool for that and that kind of thing. We'll see where it goes. Who knows? The next generation of cartoons may blow us out of the water and may come back to ground, where we get to see some really, really cool, mature content and not have to worry about stuff getting weird, or cheesy or whatever. But we'll see. As far as this goes, though, I've been hammering this stuff out all day. Been working on pages, been working on the Patreon account, trying to figure out what feedback from people is and what you guys want to see over there, because I know they charge by the individual post, by the quote unquote thing that they post in those subscription services, and I don't want to charge people a bunch of crazy money for posting all the time. That's just not what I want to do with it. And since they changed that format, I'm curious about what I want to do with it. If I want to post once a month, if I want to post, once a week, whatever. I'm feeling out everybody on that. But as far as my day goes, man, I've been hammering out all kinds of stuff all day. Working on the comic book covers for Cancer books that I have. I've been sitting on them for a little bit because of the fact that I had so much stuff going on, and I wanted to make sure which way I wanted to go with it, especially the last couple, because with the new Doctor Who coming out, I wanted to wait to do that one, depending on how everybody resonates with the new Doctor Who, being a woman. And then on top of that, there's all kinds of stuff going on. I mean, I got Shipwreck on the G.I. Joe cover, and it's funny how many people have asked me, who's Shipwreck? I don't know that guy. And it's funny to me because he was one of the prime time characters all along. He's been one of the best known characters in G.I. Joe since the series came out. And I mean, even since the action figures started back in the 50s and 60s, he was one of the first ones uniquely codenamed. And I just found that highly ironic. Research your history for this animation stuff and for these figures and things, and get out there and get to know more. If you don't know who Shipwreck is, I will show you really quick. These covers are coming along all right. I'll interrupt this just for a second. There is Shipwreck. It's simple black ink, and the laser sights are actually the dark red is a dark red Sharpie, a fine point, and the other lighter red around it is from a oh goodness, a Copic. Jeez, I forgot. I went blank. Anyway, I just thought I'd take a minute and show those. I'm sorry, I was getting a lot of pop-up messages. I had to close the other window so that I didn't get blocked on that. But I want to make sure that I'm in panel for you guys. Hey, Tom. Yeah, that's just one of those things, that this series is coming along the same way. And, a lot of people don't know these characters. And they asked why I was doing them. If I did, if nobody knows them, why are you doing them? Well, it's because of the simple fact that if I do them, you're going to know who they are. So, you're welcome. A lot of people don't know who the Silverhawks are and what they were about and whatnot. And I mean, they're just some of the best comic and cartoon heroes out there. a lot of people don't know who they are, and that's part of what I do, is I'm informing you that great heroes do exist that you don't know about. So, it's not just the Trinity and whatnot. It's a lot of characters. Check them out. They're out there. They really are. Learn from me. And I've been getting a lot of requests for the how-to course for comics. I am putting that out right around my birthday on the 15th, and I'm going to start that open for people around the 10th, so they can start seeing and signing up and checking it out and whatnot. And if you guys are interested, awesome. If not, that's fine too. If it's not your cup of tea or something you need, awesome, great. But I've been getting a lot of requests for it, and I want to put that out there. So like I said, it's not a sales pitch or anything like that. I'm just saying it's out there if you guys are interested, because I've been asked for it so long. I decided to go ahead and do that. And if you want to, cool. If not, then that's fine too. Now, SteelWill has flesh up to his shoulder. He has a comm link on his arm over here, which I'm going to put on the point of his wrist here. But when I finish drawing in his hand. But yeah, he has the most flesh of all the Silverhawks. He was a professional football player, and he was injured, and got selected for the project, and he got his life renewed, and as part of this team, he is basically the muscle of the group, or the enforcer of the group. He is the biggest one of the team, and he is massive. He stands about 6.5 foot tall. I don't remember the exact stats for him, but he stands about 6.5 foot tall, and he is just huge. For the time, he fit perfectly because he had that bulky look, like football players did, and they did a great design on him because he really did look like a football player, which was awesome. And being a kid from Texas at the time, I was watching the Dallas Cowboys left and right because that was our team, and that's back when they were winning every year. So that was one of those things. It reflected on that, and this guy is just phenomenal. I just really dig this character. He was one of my favorites in the series, over and above everybody's favorite, because most kids resonate. Little kids want to be the leader of the group, and they want to be the best of the best, and they want to be the top notch and whatnot. But this team was designed with everybody being the best of what they did. So that made it really easy to attach yourself to any particular character in the team, and everybody was a winner. So that's the way it worked. But I was always partial to SteelWill, this character here, and Copper Kid, which is tomorrow, which is the kid of the team. It was how you related to the team by who you associated and resonated with most. That's the whole experience of any fiction or story, for that matter, is the people you resonate with the most. But especially with fiction, because of the fact that you have to make that bond and make it believable within something that doesn't exist. Space suits and travel and stuff don't exist like that. And the funny thing is, if they were actually to go out into space, even though that they're technically cyborgs and no longer living, this part of his flesh would die in the vacuum of space. It would freeze. So, the practicality wasn't necessarily there, but it sure made for a great cartoon and entertaining pastime. So, a lot of the physics and logic and stuff weren't there to make you go, that probably shouldn't work that way, but you didn't care, I know I didn't. I know I didn't. Now, as an adult, I would pick this apart, but um, as a kid, surely not. And I mean, I've watched these things numerous times, and I get sucked right back in. With even knowing all the flaws are there, it still happens. So, hey, Penny, glad you made it. But animation's part of, as far as the source goes, animation got me into comics. Comics got me into reading, and the animation got me into wanting to draw comics and move forward. Because I knew I couldn't do animation because, being a kid, I was focused on that, and I was like, I'm not going to get into animation. It's too tough. Um, I didn't think I could do that with my art style. And I didn't want to have to draw the same thing over and over and over and over to make the pacing. I wanted to do individual different pictures. That's the reason I resonated with this. Because when you get into comics, that's what you can do is, you can draw the whole film in 25 pages and tell the same story that they can tell in, 2 hours on animation on screen because you got to act all that out. So that's where it's at. But, yep. I'm going to put in that mark right there to separate the flesh from the arm. Just show where that shoulder armor tips down. And because SteelWill is a big burly guy, I'm going to put some hair on his knuckles, which doesn't happen a lot anymore. My arms are covered in it, but most people aren't. Most modern men aren't hairy people. We tend to lean to the smooth side of things, but yeah, it's just one of those things, man. We've genetically adapted, I guess. But anyway, I thought I'd put some hair on his knuckles, because he's a big burly guy. Very, very solid character, very masculine character. And I'm checking out whatever else I need to do here with the details. Now, this normally wasn't on the design. I just want him to have the flow of the Silverhawk look. This was a cone piece that came out more triangular across his face and met in the middle with a seam line right under the grill, and then this thing would extend out across. The face guard would extend out across because he was a football player. I'm doing that because of the fact that I just like the look a little better. It modernizes him a little bit. And if you're a fan, if you're an 80s fan of other stuff, you may remember Thundar. He's starting to kind of look like Ukla right there in the middle if you look at it just a little bit. But if you don't know who Ukla the Maki is, you can look him up under Thundar the Barbarian. Another great series around this time that was just phenomenal. A little bit earlier than the Hawks because it came out in the early 80s. But it was still awesome. A comet came by and got too close to it passed between the Earth and the Moon, ripped up the lunar cycle and ripped up the gravity and split the moon in half, crushed it. And the year was 1999. So, yeah. I thought that was phenomenal. See here, trying to see if I want to muck this up some more or not. I'm trying not to over detail these because I want to do the metallic look and keep them very simple and clean without over killing it. And because I'm going to put the space background back here, let's see, I want to put that in. And I'll put some stars in there, that kind of thing. I've got a couple of circles here for some stars. I'll put those in so they light up the night pretty good. Little tiny one right there. Another little tiny one right there. And as I do this, like I said before, I've said this 1,000 times over these cards, don't necessarily do this because I'm doing this because I'm inking it. But if you're a penciler, you don't want to do this on a finished project because it'll end up having to be erased, and it'll take a lot of time for the inker to check that stuff out, and you don't want to do that. Let's see. Just checking this one out to make sure they don't make them all the same size. And these cards are so tiny, it cracks me up because everybody's like, well, why do you draw so small? Or why do you draw so close up? Or why do you draw this? Or why do you draw that? And it's just like, have you not seen the card that I'm drawing on? That material is really small. That's the reason I don't do a lot of full body stuff, because this just doesn't have the space to allow for that definition and that depth. That's why everybody liked the Starfire so much that I did a while back, and the Juggernaut with so many other cards, because I used 4 cards for the Juggernaut. That was a massive, massive piece. I used 4 cards for that one. I'm going to turn this canvas. It's just construction paper, like I've used all along. I want to turn this canvas here so that I can show you guys how they're coming along and how they're starting to look. Okay? As a set. Very cool. They're coming off pretty good. So tomorrow, going to be doing the Copper Kid. I'm going to call this one done. Going to do the Copper Kid tomorrow, and his mask will be open, and he will be holding one of his discs. It's a famous shot for him. It's typical, but I'll do that because I don't want them all to be masked up. I want that one to show his face. Got Commander Stargazer, then Monstar, then to wrap it up, I'm going to do Bluegrass to wrap up the team, because so many people don't know this series. I don't want to go through all of the characters just for everybody not to know what's going on with it. If you guys tell me, message me in the comments and let me know when you watch this. If you want to see the whole series of them, there's like 12 of them, and if you want to see the entire set, then that's awesome. I'll keep doing them. But if not, I'm going to round this out to about 6 or 7 and move on to the next set, because we have the next series, which I'm going to go ahead and reveal now if you're watching this. If you're not, you won't know it. But surprise, surprise, I'm going to do the Thundercats after this one. So just want to round them out. These are childhood favorites for me, and I wanted to do this stuff and reintroduce you guys to them. I hope you're digging it. And thanks for hanging out with me as always. Catch you tomorrow.